All right, so it's 8:03, so let's go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody tonight. Hello, and welcome to the Mushrooms and Social Media, Leveraging Social Platforms for Mycology Club Success. Tonight's event is brought to you by the NAMA Club Relations Committee. Our mission, our primary mission, is to communicate the value of NAMA membership to clubs, both affiliated and non-affiliated clubs. So our goal tonight is to bring together a group of people who are well versed in the world of social media and present a discussion on how your mushroom club can better utilize these platforms. The world of social media is a shifting landscape with platforms becoming relevant and obsolete in a very short amount of time. So, a key point to remember is that the content that we put on social media does not belong to us and is temporary. So, some information is better to put on websites and in newsletters, but social media is a powerful tool that can definitely help clubs fulfill its own mycological missions. And tonight, we're hoping to highlight some of the ways that we can really do that. So, we have four awesome speakers tonight, which I'm very grateful that they were able to join us from all over North America. We have Shannon Adams, who's a member of the Puget Sound Mycological Society, the Show Publicity Committee, a past board member of that society, and also uh, works for Meta as a Meta UXR. We have Adam Cohen, former NAMA Instagram manager and an active NAMA member. I like to point out that he took over our NAMA Instagram account, and it went from a couple of hundred people to something like 20,000 followers in a relatively short period of time. We have Kathy Yerich, NAMA Marketing Committee Chair and the Minnesota Mycological Society board member, and Melissa Klotka, NAMA Marketing Committee and the Wisconsin Mycological Society Board of Directors. So again, thank you all for joining us. And we're going to go right into our questions. So the first one, anybody can jump in here. How do you use social media to foster engagement with your club? Who would like to break the ice?
I can start. I think you have my name up there just because it begins with A. Um, I loved the word engagement in this, and I think I'll kick off by just saying that the idea of a lot of the social media strategy is just building community and engaging community. So that's what makes it different to sort of marketing or publicity, which is often seen as a one-way broadcast. A successful social media strategy is diverse enough that gives everybody a way to kind of hear what you're saying, get to know who you are, but also be seen in some way. So, I think that's my starting point for building a social media strategy is having a voice, and letting people engage with it by sharing their content as well as engaging with the content that you put up there. So how about one of my other panelists kind of build off that?
I guess I would mention that kind of build on what Luke said and build on what you said, that someone like we have changing boards, right? We're spread all over the country, and someone had started on the previous board had said, "Hey, let's start Instagram, let's start Facebook," but we weren't all really engaged on it and maybe didn't really know the rules. And as we started to find people who wanted to help with it, I had a lot to learn. It took me a while. Actually, I see Rose Tercy is on this webinar, and she had said, nope, there's the group and there's our page. We've got our group where other people can comment. And then, so this is in Facebook or Meta. And then we have our page where we can broadcast things. So it sort of took a while to learn how some of that works. And then, questions about what do we want to use Instagram for? And, we started a page. How would we use it? And I'd love to kick it to Adam just because I thought he had a really great idea that because NAMA is such a diverse group and it encompasses all these affiliate clubs and all these different ways of being interested in mushrooms, that he just sort of invited the whole mushroom world to kind of say, hey, take a turn, show us what you do. Because we know a lot of people do their own social media or their business's social media really, really well. So I thought that was a brilliant strategy.
Yeah, 2019, 2020, early 21, I was begging NAMA to give me a shot at or to have an Instagram presence because I was learning so much on my own about you know, as a mycophile, it's like every facet of life, there's something to be into with mushrooms. And I just, you know, as a member, I wanted I want to name it to be on Instagram. And I'm not sure what happened. It was just maybe persistence. And Kathy and Brooke gave me a shot in early March of 21. And, you know, so it was my first day on the job as a volunteer. And I had a picture downstairs that I had bought years earlier. And I posted that and I made a post. It took me all day to make this one post on Instagram. And that's kind of when the light bulb went off that I didn't know what I was doing. And this was really hard. And I was in a lot of trouble because I had been barking for so long. And now I didn't know how this could possibly work. And one of the greatest things about Instagram and really the mycophile community in general is how accessible people are. And one of the accounts that I followed all the time is a guy out in California, Damon Teague. And I said, Damon, they let me take over the account. What do I do? And he said, well, let's do a takeover. And I said, awesome. What is that? And he said, you know, you securely give me the account for a week and I post my content on your page and then I hand it off to someone. And he did a great job. It was his idea. And he asked Kristen Weichert at K-Dubs, the hiking scientist, who's involved with Name and Now, probably always. And she took it over and she handed it to Gordon Walker at Fascinated by Fungi. And really, I mean, those three, they set you can go all the way back to March of 2021. And, you know, we were off at that point. And I had so much fun. Kathy, thank you for trusting me and trusting the process and this wacky idea we had. And I just got to tell you, it was about 3.5 years that I was able to manage the account. And we had about 150, 160 hosts during that time that I was able to interact with, which was so much fun, a dream really. And we had our ups and downs, but almost all ups. And so, you know, fostering engagement, it's sort of, you know, when the content is real and it's passionate, you end up getting engagement.
And I have a closing remark on that also. As far as like making your members engaged, engaging them on social media is one thing, but engaging them in person is something else. But I think social media is an excellent tool to get people to engage in person because you get to get the word out about whatever your events are on social media. So it is an excellent way to, you know, bring people together actually in a space to learn and to join each other for events as well.
Great, thank you. All right. So Melissa, what do you think are some of the platforms that you consider most successful?
For me personally, I like Meta because one can control both posting on Facebook and Instagram simultaneously through Meta. So I really love it because one of the strengths of that is you can save time through doing that, like 2 posts at once. And like Adam was talking about, like creating a post takes a lot of time. So getting to just duplicate it automatically and push that out, to me is a big deal. Like my time is valuable, so I don't want to spend it doing, you know, just social media in a night. One of the weaknesses though I see of Meta is you can only schedule things about 30 days out in your planner ahead of time. And I'm the type of person who wants to schedule something from now until 6 months now, you know, like when the event is happening and just get it all done or whatever and like really be like super organized. So I have to remind myself that I have to go back into my calendar and back into my calendar every few weeks and continue that cycle of scheduling. So it doesn't have that kind of reach. So on the calendar. So sometimes it actually can lead people to like missing valuable posts, but we try to make as many posts as we can at one time when we're logged on and just, deal with that. And for Meta, as Facebook and Instagram, on Facebook specifically, there's like a recommendations section for like your page or your group oftentimes, and they're not controlled, which I don't like about those platforms, because people can spam into the recommendations section and you can't control it the same way that you can with like keyword filters for comments and that kind of stuff. But yeah, and just so anyone knows, if you haven't started social media, it can take hours to just make a couple of posts. So this is why, to me, like Wisconsin Mycological Society ends up posting a lot of the same posts. We duplicate posts. We try to change the pictures up a little bit to like create visual interest for Instagram and stuff. But and I kind of do the same thing for NAMA. I'm posting kind of the same thing on Facebook fairly often, but usually Instagram I only post it once. But it allows a different audience at different times to see those posts come through and get more engagement with that. So that's why I like Meta.
Can I maybe build on this a little bit? Because I think there's something that's been really important for me. And by the way, I just want to say, I do not come here as like, we have not aced the social media strategy. It's not like we are here to tell you all what to do. But one thing I find really important is to figure out why you're doing it. Like, what is the goal? So if you're starting off, if you're a small club, you maybe just want to get your feet wet and start to get your brand and your name out there to get members. But maybe if you're a large club like ours, I have a specific goal of publicizing an event like our fall show. And those are quite different objectives. And all of them can be built off sort of a general awareness, so numbers of followers or reach of your posts, but they can have different can suggest that you have different kind of content. So first, once you plan your goals, then you can start to say what platforms to use. So I do find that I use Facebook most, and we also have Instagram that is used widely for promotion of specific events. And we can have a call to action of an event that you can create on your page for the club, which acts as a kind of persistent, like a calendar event that people can go to and see all of the key details of the thing you're promoting. But if you're looking at, say, educational content and maybe longer form, you might want to use YouTube or have posted content on YouTube, then cross-post, like these webinars. They might persist, or talks that the club does might persist on YouTube and be cross-posted to your other platforms. So I think that really, that piece of why you're doing it can help guide you in where to do it.
And, Kathy, you could probably back me up here. We're highly protective of the sort of real estate that each host has, and trying not to clutter that with sort of event flyers and things like that NAMA does use on Facebook. And as you scroll through the Instagram page, I hope that you can feel that when you view through there. But certainly the stories and sort of temporary pinning of a NAMA event or a webinar or something like that, that is going to go away. And it, just as the event is going to pass, you don't want it necessarily interrupting that viewing experience of how the host sort of built their week takeover. And some hosts post only 3 or 4 times. Some hosts post more than that, but you don't want it to get lost with sort of bullet points and dates and things that in a year or 2 years are not necessarily going to be as relevant anymore.
Yeah, it seemed like, just like you said, Adam, that to be respectful, like you're asking someone to do this takeover and they're kind of curating their week and their information and their page, and to interrupt it seemed rude. We've evolved now to having that Sundays are NAMA's day to just go, hey, here's what's coming up for the week on Instagram. And then the takeovers are Monday through Saturday with the other person. But again, Facebook is where we just put it all out there. And then there is a Facebook group where other clubs can join and share their info.
So moving on to the next subject, is there any information better suited for a website or a newsletter than for social media? Where do we draw the line here for what we're posting? And
Yeah. Right. Because the website and the newsletter are doing a lot of heavy lifting as well. But if we look at our numbers, like the number of people following the page and the number of people who are NAMA members, it seems like there's still some space to kind of catch people who are maybe just, I'm gonna, watch for a while and see if something of interest comes up. I'm also in a quilting group, and I remember sort of I joined that group because they had a speaker that was such a large and nationally known speaker that that event was open to the public for a price. Or it was like, or become a member and you can come and see it. So here I am, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years later, and I decided it was more worth it to become a member. So yeah, when you sort of look at the numbers, it does seem like there's a lot of folks who kind of haven't chosen to kind of buy in at a membership level yet, but are kind of checking out some of the stuff we have to offer. And the hope is that they like it enough that then they do become a member.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, I think websites are often doing the heavy lifting on things that are more permanent. So they are that brand, they're a permanent resource. You know that you can find things often, your club's policies, your bylaws, the more bureaucratic stuff. It's not as effervescent or evanescent and passing and engaging as your feed. And you can often direct people. It's a really useful kind of hand passing. Oh, go over to the website. You can get this. You can take time and read things. You can connect with members. Often there's action sites for registration. So in a way, you can think of it, the social media side as your funnel to an action center that you might have on the website where people can find persistent content. And those more dedicated kind of functional pieces that you might need to use for membership and finances and things like that. So it becomes like an overall professional experience.
okay. Anybody else have anything to say about the difference between the content that we want to put on social media versus websites?
I could chat a bit about the Minnesota Club has a Facebook page or a meta page, and had a lot of people sort of contributing to it, and we're kind of for a while contributing just what we found interesting. And some other people on the board said, why aren't we posting our stuff, right? But in general, most of our activities were for members only, so it seemed a little, I don't know, I don't want to say taunting to be like, hey, look at, if you remember, you could do this. There's only so much of that non-members want to see. But we started, one of the bigger things our club offers, we are a larger club and we struggle with serving the numbers of people that are interested. So in the summer, we do forays about every weekend, sometimes twice in a weekend. And if you're trying to get, 1,000 people through forays in the summer, but you can only take 30, 40 at a time, it takes a lot of work. So what we decided to do was kind of post pictures from the events so that people who didn't get to go got to see what species we found and connect them to our iNaturalist pages from those events, just so they feel like they're engaged, even if they can't be at every event. So it was, kind of a record of where we've been and what we've found, and if there's anything interesting found. So rather than kind of pushing people to sign up for events.
All right, thanks, Kathy. I just want to mention to people who are putting questions in the chat, I am monitoring the chat and I will ask those questions when it seems like we're into that subject matter. So like Dave, I see your questions. I'll make sure they get answered. Okay, so our next question, what are some creative and innovative ways to use social media to promote your club? I think that's what a lot of people are using social media for, or want to use social media for, right? To promote their particular club.
I mean,
I
oh, go ahead.
Having contests and doing that kind of stuff is a great way to get people engaged on social media. Like we just did one for the 12 Days of Fungi Festivus for the Wisconsin Mycological Society, and we just gave away some memberships. And since, there is a cost to memberships, but like, we don't really have to pay that as a club or whatever. It's a good way to like get people to engage. Also, I think making educational videos, because people are so interested in mushrooms, and usually, as a mushroom club, that's why people are joining your club, usually is to learn more about mushrooms. So doing educational videos, I think, is a good idea as well. And we also do like introductory posts on our board members and give them props and stuff for things that they're doing. And then, a lot of times when you do a post about someone specific, like all of their friends and family are like going to share, or whatever, and kind of create that like momentum for the post. Um, and then obviously we do that same thing, like promoting our events. We do little videos of like pictures from our past events and stuff. So people kind of understand the experience that they're going to have when they come to our retreats, when we're, trying to do advertising for them. So I think it's a good way to kind of make people understand a little bit more and like give the richness of context of what you're trying to convey.
Yeah. Adam, you had something to say too?
It for me, it's just like a content war. And if you have the best content, you're gonna do so well. And I totally agree with the contest. That was the hosts were bringing their own contest that they wanted to run that had to do with their own specific perspective and what they wanted to share with the community. But our content wasn't necessarily monetized. This wasn't about like a pay for play thing. I mean, this was just like sharing, and the content is really, really great. And when the content is great, people are drawn to your club because it has all this awesome stuff coming out of it.
I think there's a funny point here. All content is not good content for every club. Like I think there's a strategy you're going to use for growing your base. But at some point, you might also want to think about what's your brand? What's your voice? Like, what does your club uniquely want to be known for? I think that's particularly important for smaller clubs who are really filming their identity and building those relationships that will sustain your club for the long haul. So, I mean, I had a funny experience where about, how many, 5, 6 years ago, I went viral. I had 45 million views on a video I took. But what it was a fish swimming over the road. And it happened to go viral in like Korea and Afghanistan. So my audience was like men with Kalashnikovs sending me pictures of goats, So this was not my brand. And I really had no clue what to do with it. I monetized it. I got a brand manager and I've made like $6,000 from it. But it wouldn't have been effective if a club like had a viral video go off on something that really doesn't represent who you are. So I think it's really important. I think that Adam was really smart in growing a base, but Nama can use that base for lots of things. It's not just there for, just for funsies. So I think it's really important. So some of the other ideas, I just loved Melissa's idea of contests. I'm going to use that one. Countdowns, people love like, oh, have I FOMO? Like, are you going to be there? Behind the scenes videos showing club members actually doing the work of setting up a show always seems fascinating to me. I love seeing those videos from other clubs. And I think, short form videos are hard. They take a long time. But if you can throw occasional short form videos or like how to make a spore print, people do amazing crafts. Like showcase some of the people in the club who are doing dyeing or doing, making stuff. I think showcasing members and their sort of fabulous obsessions with mushrooms is just the most fascinating content and everyone wants to see it. So things like that can just be easy lifts.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on what Adam was saying earlier too about like, Instagram, when you have someone do a takeover, oftentimes they can actually link their account to your account or whatever, so they can like do post at like both places at the same time on both accounts. And that can actually give you more followers if like that Instagram takeover artist is in fact like if they have a lot of followers, right? So they can be like, I'm the Nama takeover person, blah, blah, blah for this week. And you can follow Nama at whatever. And then, that obviously, if they've got 50,000 followers and you've got 500, that is a lot of exposure for your organization. So I'm not sure if that's like creative and innovative, but like that is a way to definitely like kind of work the system in a way that's effective to get where you want to be. And you can kind of do the same thing on Facebook. If you find groups that have a lot of members, like in Wisconsin, for instance, Wild Food Wisconsin has like 50,000 people or something. So a lot of times we cross post our stuff. We like find the groups that have the largest followings, and then and make sure that obviously they're relevant to what you're talking about. But like, if it's a camping group, we have a rustic camping event for Wisconsin. So we post it into the camping group. And for some of our events that are more food oriented, yeah, post it into Wild Food Wisconsin. And that way you get a ton more visibility. So creating your post and then sharing it into other places and creating like an army of people that have like different groups that they're going to post into, that can create wild visibility on your post.
Awesome. That's a great idea. So speaking of other pages and stuff like that, somebody's asking what mycology clubs have good social media presence. So each of you, what's your favorite Myco page to follow? I guess you
North
can promote
American
your own.
Mycological, North American Myco.
Good answer.
I like the dyers, the International Fungus Fiber Symposium. It's or whatever it's called. It's some combination of those words.
Mhm.
I don't have a single one, but I really do enjoy the New York Mycological Society. I think they have a lot of really good taxonomy and sort of serious scientific things. And I think sometimes you think social media is all about the bling, but they really I learn a lot through them. I really appreciate what they post.
This is going to be a little offbeat, but the Mushroom Folklore Gallery is one of my favorite things because it's like a lot of crafts and artwork and stuff or whatever, and I'm really into that stuff. So I really love seeing that stuff.
Jennifer Bell
Awesome.
mentioned that the Central Texas Club are pros. I agree. They're doing a really good job. But yeah, I wanted to mention going back to what Shannon was saying about the FOMO. Nothing gets me more than if two people I know who maybe aren't in the same club are hunting together and then post. It's like huge FOMO. I'm like, oh, they're there hunting with them.
Yes.
What? I should be there.
Okay, so next question. Do any of the social platforms that we're talking about, or maybe others that we haven't talked about, do any of them serve to broaden diversity in your clubs?
Yeah, let me try to take a stab at this. Obviously, North American Mycological is a large area. US, Canada, Mexico. But in terms of, we're always looking for unique perspective and authenticity, and obviously passion and willingness to put in the time to do this. But that diversity to your club is, I mean, it's educators, it's scientists, it's foragers, growers, chefs, authors, artists. Recently there was a lifestyle tour company from Oaxaca that took over. So as you localize and sort of shrink that club's area of your club, there's still all these different perspectives that, somehow or another are passionate about the, you know, our mycophiles, so to speak. And that's been a lot of fun, you know, finding all of these different perspectives.
I think it's actually like a lot of us find diversity through like what we were getting fed on on social media. So it can be a tool to find people, you know, to bring in as like speakers and stuff like that for your clubs. For us anyway, it's been a tremendous help as far as, you know, finding people like Maria Pinto and that kind of stuff. But I mean, we've also tried to reach out to certain other clubs to see if we could, you know, make partnerships with, you know, with clubs that like Black people who hike and stuff. Like we, you know, reached out to them or whatever to try to like form a relationship or whatever. But, you know, I think at least we can find out about those groups existing at all in the first place through those channels, which is helpful because then at least you can make that reach.
Hmm. Great, thank you. Okay. So next question. How do you turn followers into paying club members? And kind of as a follow-up to that, can social media be used to solicit donations? I think Adam might be able to start that topic.
You know, I would obviously, the bigger your audience, and when you do post a temporary story, or you pin something at the top of your page, there's going to be a greater awareness of that event, which, you know, should drive interested people to maybe click through to the website itself, which is helpful. But, you know, Kathy, you were saying that you try to not post things about the events. I think that was you that said that.
Yeah,
But I mean,
Minnesota Club.
FOMO
Mhm.
is a real thing. And when you see people out there at the foray and oh my God, they're having so much fun and they're doing these things that you're so interested in and they're all meeting each other. When you see that, it becomes a bucket list item. And once you attend one, that person is hooked. You know, you don't come away from a foray saying, ah, I'm done with that. You know, that's not the way I've seen it work.
Yeah, I think Nama's done a great job with the webinars. Frankly, it's like there's we have all these great speakers, and a lot of them, you know, it's free for members, and some of them just have a small fee, but just sort of putting the content out there and saying, would you like to join? Or maybe you'd like to watch this webinar and you're not quite ready to join yet. I think that's a really nice way to do it, to just give people a little taste. And of course, like you were saying, Adam, if they do want to come to one of the annual forays, membership is a part of that registration fee. And I mean, ideally, like you said, once you've gone, you want to go back if you can. So
Something that we do as far as like Wisconsin's post as well is when we post lectures, we advertise lectures every month online on Facebook. And because of the fact that our lectures are members only, we type in interested, gotta be a member. And if you're not a member, this is how you join, and put a link to our membership join up link or whatever in there. So it's a way that it's like really easy marketing to just be like, look what we're doing. We're having another lecture and another lecture and you know, every single month, having really fascinating people like Shannon Adams talking for us. And then, you know, giving them that like push at that time or whatever. Like, if you want to watch this, you have to be a member. You have to join up. And yes, we do record them and put them on YouTube as well. So people can see them after the fact oftentimes, but not everyone wants to be recorded. So not all of them get posted. You know, just knowing that like you can use your social media to like say, yay, we're doing something really amazing and something fun and something educational, but also join the club. It's a really good practice.
Yeah, I think this whole what we're coming up, and I'm seeing some of the questions in the chat. I think what we're talking about here is really, again, in marketing terms or in business terms, about a funnel. You want to get a name out there, and then you want to convert people to take an action. And we're not always clear as clubs what our action is that we're wanting from social media. So for me with the show, I'm very lucky. It's get people to come to the show, make sure everyone's aware of the show, and then they buy tickets at the door, and we're, hey, have a great show, and everyone's happy. I think for the general club, it can be a little more difficult because you don't just want people to buy memberships. You also want to build a community. I really think that we got to keep coming back to that, particularly as it's harder and harder for people to have really meaningful offline communities. I mean, we all know they're under stress. And so in some ways, we can showcase the content that will draw people to be participating members. Like if we show volunteers, if we show opportunities, not just to go mushroom hunting, but also to volunteer. And if we sort of feature people who give back, maybe that's on a slightly different audience or different cadence. I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of attract people who are looking for, what the club needs at the time. And sometimes it is growth and you just want to get people to attend and aware of you. But if your strategy is to get members who contribute, you might be able to shape your content a bit to encourage people who take that kind of action.
Excellent. Very good points there. I do have a question. This kind of goes back to an earlier topic, but since we're talking a little bit about money right now, somebody did ask if it cost money to use YouTube. Do they charge? Does YouTube charge? I think the answer is no, right?
So
I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Okay.
We don't pay. Like as long as you've got a Google account, that comes with it. YouTube comes with it. So, and you can monetize your YouTube if you make like enough videos and they become popular enough. So it's the opposite. You can actually end up making money on YouTube, but my club has not done that yet. But yeah, no, YouTube is free.
You can pay to get rid of the ads. So some people will pay a monthly fee to get rid of ads and videos and things they would.
Excellent. Okay. So the next question we have on here, are there any tips or tricks on how social media admins can make their task easier?
Have someone take
Yeah.
over the account.
Good answer. That is actually like an excellent answer for Instagram. Like doing takeovers, hey, someone else can do it or whatever. And like we talked about, things take a lot of time. So like that is like really excellent delegating. Um, I would also tell people if you are managing social media, I don't know if you guys, if everyone has social media, if you're just thinking about it, as far as your clubs, but anyone who has Facebook probably understands that there is a deluge of like microdosing is beneficial and helpful, blah, 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 whatever. And like it's very annoying. And it's really hard to control. But keyword blocking is my absolute number one recommendation for people that are going to do social media because Facebook and Instagram have keyword blocking capacity that automatically hides comments with words or phrases that you choose to block. Now, this does mean that you might inadvertently block some comments that are legit on your platform just because of the fact that like people get caught up in that like phrase. But it also means that you'll be less likely to be bombarded by spam content. And management of spam can become unmanageable if you let it kind of get out of hand really quickly if you're not using this feature. So I highly, highly recommend that. And also doing like a team approach for posting is easier than putting all of the work on one person. So if like one person can do Facebook and the other can do Instagram, or if like you have like a team of people that kind of like do hybrid of both or whatever, that is very, very useful. But if you don't like, if you understand that, if you're doing 5 posts a week, that it's probably taking like 5 hours to like put that together. that's probably helpful information for the club or whatever, if you're going to get a team of people together to do that, so that they understand like how much work it can be because it's not just getting like, you have to contact people. I need a picture from you, and I need this, and I need a bio, and I need, this information, and like, what is your thing about? And I need a blurb about it, and where is the registration for it? And we need the links for all this stuff. And, like all of that stuff takes a tremendous amount of time. So, yeah, I think having a team and using keyword blocking, those are my number one and number two.
Awesome. So a couple follow-up questions that go along here. Is there such a thing as too many hashtags?
I think this is a personality test, Luke. You'll probably get different answers from everybody.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
my feeling is, if you're looking about the algorithm, probably not, because how a hashtag, for people who don't know, a hashtag is picked up by the algorithm, by the indexing on the platform, and they use it to decide where to surface that content. So if you say baby hedgehogs, hashtag baby hedgehogs, if somebody's searching for baby hedgehogs, you have an increased opportunity to be found. So really, you're adding search indexing to your post. But on the other hand, it can kind of look stupid after a while. And the person who's the reader starts to feel that this post isn't so much directed at me personally. It doesn't have that personal message. It's someone trying hard to make a big impact. And so it can affect the tone and the authenticity of your message. So, if you have 20 or 30 at this much hashtags that only this much content, that could look disproportionate. But if you've written a really long post and you have a lot of hashtags because it's relevant, I think there's not really anything wrong with that. So really, that's a bit of a personality. That's my point of view.
Thank you. How about another question from Andrew Johnson? Is it worth getting meta verified as a mycological society?
That's funny because I'm not sure if, I mean, maybe we are meta verified. Maybe it's been so long that I don't remember that. But I don't remember it, to be honest. I don't.
Yeah, Shannon, do you have an opinion on?
Well, I can't have an official opinion. I mean, I just meta verified. It's a badge, still blue thing. That the idea is to show that you are your legitimate owner of an account, for particularly for people, say, who were personalities who people would spoof or copy their account. It indicated that they were the authentic one. So my feeling is that since there's not a lot of people spoofing our accounts, I don't think we have a problem with credibility. We've got our logos. That should not be a high priority. But if you ever did face that problem of credibility or confusion about the names, overlapping names, that might be a useful strategy. It can sometimes, I think, increase your visibility, but I'd ask folks to check on that.
Okay, thank you. And another question in this subject is, how much does the day of the week or time of day play into the visibility of your content? And then there was a follow-up question there. Any websites that can assist with the insight on that type of presence?
Yeah, absolutely. Now Meta has peak times like built right into it, and they're not as good as they used to be. But it helps a little bit to see like essentially what the peak times that it tells you are. So for me, posting mycological stuff, I already know Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon are my top two times, bar none. If I want to get a message out, the most important messages that I put on our website or on our socials are going to be Saturday morning, Sunday evening. Those are my number one and twos always. And then the rest of the week, I'm going to sprinkle in other things. But my most important messages and the most prescient things, like if I have something coming up next week, I'm going to say Sunday night for that, because I want to get the most visibility I can, because for at least for when I post, usually Sunday night is peak time. So yeah, that really matters. And also, the Instagram users are a little bit behind the Facebook users. So if you're gonna do like timed release on your stuff, like 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, great for Facebook. For Instagram users, let's wait a couple hours until they're awake, like 10 or 11. So yeah.
TikTok's probably noon then. Yeah.
I'm feeling a little bit attacked right there. As I think about my Saturday mornings on Facebook at like 8 o'clock. So, okay, that's awesome. That's great insight. How about, are there any like websites that people are using to help with that kind of, spacing out? That was part of the question they had asked.
I mean, I think Melissa, you've talked about calendar, and I mean, since we probably have a lot of folks here, it seems, on the questions who are newer to strategies. Yeah, I think the work of a social media strategy is actually, there's multiple bits. There's first this, what we talked about, the goals and what you're trying to get done, and then there's the content, creating the content that aligns to your goals. There's a lot of work everyone's explained about actually creating good content. But then there's also the platforms that where you put it, and there's practically this execution. It's really just a whole lot of calendar planning. Put in all your dates. What are all your events? What are you trying to promote? Who's taking over when and what? And then once you've got that calendar, you can sort of assign jobs in it, and you can start to build your cadence. I think that's sort of the backbone of all of this work is the calendar and the plan.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next question. What platform is easiest to control comments or people misbehaving? Or alternatively, are there any tools that could help you manage this? You want to start that, Kathy?
I'm just gonna admit that I'm not doing a lot of the day-to-day stuff. So when it comes to tools, I'll lean on Melissa and even Adam. But I will say that very early on, it was one of our, first half dozen takeover artists. We had someone trolling them, and I would say Adam was very, very clear, and we engaged Brooke, and we're just like, we are going to have a zero tolerance for bullying, and just blocked them right away. And I think that's Shannon, even when you're talking about what are your goals and what do you want to do, you also have to have a list of like, what are we willing to allow? What are we, what's going to happen if people start arguing? Because we all know that even though it's just mushrooms and we should all be able to get along, people have opinions, and sometimes they have really want to support their opinion and talk about it, and you can see some fights starting. But I would say kudos to Adam that very early on we were like, nope, I'm not doing that here, and we just set up a no tolerance policy and do not feel bad about it, because that's just not a part of our our goal.
Bright line rule. But in terms of tools, what you need is someone that owns it, that feels personally responsible for not just the comments and what might there, but the host, and keeping them as productive and happy and comfortable as they can be. You are there to protect them in a way so that they can provide their content. And it I almost feel like we have an amazing person handling the page for us right now, and you almost want the comment, whatever nastiness comes out, to be deleted before the host even sees it. And I don't know if you're going to hopefully we get some really great AI out there that can somehow know before the person that owns it. But when you have a lot of viewers and you have people that are pouring their heart into the content they're providing you, you want to make sure that they're as protected as possible. And that means you got to be watching it, because you own it.
Yeah. I could not agree with you more on that, Adam. I think that's so important. And also, I wanted to just say, like, yes, we can control keywords or whatever, so we can make sure that we're controlling like spam and that kind of stuff, and also like swear words and that kind of thing if you're, you care about that. But also, like, it's important to remember that your page is the created space of your club. Okay. And you get to manage that. So there have been people that have been Johnny Raincloud about certain things that my club has done. And that, do you know what you're doing wrong? And do you know what you're doing wrong? And do you know what you're doing wrong? And at first I thought, well, this is valuable feedback. But then the same person over and over again had something to say that was bad about multiple events and multiple things that we're doing and always telling us what was going wrong with what we were doing. And I started going to myself, I am a volunteer for this club. And all of the people on the board are volunteers for this club. And we are putting our heart and soul into these events, and they deserve to be respected, and they don't deserve to be bashed by people. And I can control the event comments, and I can delete comments, and I can like control the narrative on my page about what we're putting together. And just because America is a free country and they should be able to have a voice, they can have that voice on their personal page. Okay. They can say whatever they want to, but on my page, I get to control what's said. Okay. So you guys just keep that in mind. You control that space.
Okay, there's a kind of a follow-up question with that about how clubs can monitor problems like bots, spam, or inappropriate content. I know Adam just addressed that pretty succinctly, and the keywords are a really good idea. Anything else that we should be looking at in controlling these types of problems?
Yeah, I mean, I think the different forums have different challenges. So, Instagram feed, you're going to have comments and you're going to have posts, people who will try and promote their own things or say nasty things. I find spam is a big problem. In groups, I think it can escalate and it's more complex. And I wouldn't suggest most clubs set up a membership group at the beginning. I think that can be a specific job. That's a separate job. That's like a community moderation job rather than a social media job. But in groups, or if you're looking at group moderation, there's just so much more content and it's so much less easy to manage. So then you've got to be managing alerts and things like that, so that members themselves can police and can bring up things that might need some supervision. And each platform has its own issues. I think some of them, like TikTok, actually has some slightly different problems. They have more overt moderation in some of these things. But yeah, just the principle that Melissa's brought up and Adam mentioned too is just the same. You've got to have a clear point of view and be willing to enforce it.
This is just a question I actually kind of have about that point right there where you're talking about each platform has its own ways of controlling that. Are there any good resources out there to like learn how to use these different things? I mean, where do you go to learn this?
Okay. I I can't help but to talk about this because even if you like Google it and like Facebook answers comes up, it tells you the wrong thing. Like it does not tell you how to navigate things correctly. And Facebook is not easy to navigate. You just have to learn it. Like I hate to say it, but that's like what you have to do because it's like you have to go into like the dots on the top and like find the thing that's like, okay, this is my profile and I'm going to go into privacy and settings, and then I'm going to go into like account settings, and I'm going to go into like data management, and then I'm going to go into like it's a maze. It's horrific, and I'm sorry for you all that it's all set up that way, but it is.
Okay, so it's a learning curve, is what you're saying. Okay, excellent. Okay, so how do you deal with questions about mushroom identification, especially requests to declare whether a mushroom's edible or poisonous? You want to start that, Melissa?
It's from my experience, the best way is to make sure as best you can that the person or the content, the person that's posting the content seems to have a good grasp on not confusing chanterelles with jack-o'-lanterns. And you know, on and on and on and on. And you know, we are interested in a difficult field that has a lot of complexity to it. And so you got to kind of do your best to try to find the experts and people who know what they're talking about. And that's everything, you know. You don't want an artist necessarily trying to paint realistic mushrooms that shows the mushroom growing out of a tree when it should be growing out of the soil, you know. So
But I think it's also, you know, being clear about the purpose of your page too, that it's like, this is not an identification page. This,
Right.
you know what I mean? And there will be discussions about it, but I think this, you know, someone in the group said, you know, something about tell them to join your club. It's like, yeah, it's like, we're not sharing things just to have a shortcut to ID, because you can never tell purely from a picture, especially if the pictures aren't great. Rose had mentioned that too, that their club has a blanket no IDs on the Facebook page. And I think our page, the Minnesota Club, we want to be about education and stuff, but you just don't want it to turn into this ID page where you'd be sitting there answering ID questions possibly wrong. And it's, yeah, it's a slippery slope. And I think it's better to just not have that be something that you're focusing on your page.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this discussion for a long time in PSMS, and generally we side with Rose's policy. We do not do ID on our public page. In fact, we have designated ideas. So if people who are members want ID, they can send an email to our ID group and they will give an ID if it's possible from those pictures. Or we also have, you know, an ID session that people can come in during mushroom season. So we direct people to that. And we advertise that as a public service, not just for club members. So I think the risk, I'm not sure how valid it is, maybe someone else can point to this, but is that there could be liability on an official club page if we give, you know, some kind of misidentification of something that is then eaten and causes harm. And so you really just don't want to go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Wisconsin has like on our instant messenger, like you can message the club directly, you know, and we have an auto reply that just automatically says every single time someone messages us, we will not ID your mushroom, and here are some places that you can go to get it ID'd. So, you know, like, sorry guys, we're not doing that.
that's very similar, you know, in an effort to be accessible and to promote engagement. We get the name and Instagram page gets a lot of requests for IDs. Hey, can I eat this? You know, and you know, the best is just to say, you know, this is not a something that can be done, and you know, try to join a club or go on a foray.
Okay. I know Dave had asked earlier, Dave W. from Pennsylvania had said that a lawyer had advised him to make their club private for the reasons of identifications on the Facebook page. So do our panelists here, are your pages, your Facebook pages, are they generally public or are they private?
Public.
Public, right? Otherwise, you're just speaking to
Public.
yourself.
There's a
Right.
difference between a page and a group. I think people might not always be aware of these. And sometimes in little clubs, the first version of your Facebook page may be a person's personal, they might just make a personal account as a page, and that also isn't a page, really. That's just a personal account. So I think, yeah, first be clear, a group can be private or public. The pages generally for this purpose are public because they're used for promotion and you know, communication with the broader audience.
Okay.
But you can't, I don't think people can you can set the settings on your page that people can't proactively start a thread on your page. They could just comment on your posts.
Right. Okay. Any advice from anyone about the do's and don'ts about posting information about psychedelics?
You know, I would say that we've tried to make sure that if it's about mushrooms, we're interested about mushrooms. If it's more maybe gospel, then maybe that's not appropriate. One thing I can say is over the 150, 160 hosts, almost everyone was super respectful of that issue, and they would like ask for permission, that, hey, is it okay if I share this? Which is, kind of a nice way to handle it. But, for me, sort of the epiphany was there's a guy in California, his name's Reggie Harris. He leads the Oakland Hyphae. He's all into gene sequencing, and he runs a psilocybin cup for, finding out what's in there. And that's just fascinating. The guy's brilliant, and should be promoted as much as possible. So that's kind of like throwing the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot to learn in this field, and it is obviously emerging and being commercialized. And as a mushroom club, you should probably at least be open to what's going on in this field.
With the
I have some notes on this as well, if you're okay with that. So I wanted to actually let people know that Meta has like actual guidelines about this. And if you're seen to be violating the guidelines for possible promotion of drugs, then you can get your page like flagged and possibly limited or banned. So you have to be very careful about posting about more of this scientific area of psychedelics rather than like the drug culture. And if you post at all about anything considering psilocybin, it also invites that deluge of microdosing is useful and beneficial, blah, 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 kind of noise that happens. So I do agree that the science of it is important. In fact, I think it's crucial. But I think that some of that might be better for like a Zoom lecture or in your newsletter if you want to explore these things on a deeper level. Or having a speaker in person would be awesome for that kind of stuff as well. But like it says that the standard for restricted goods and services states we prohibit attempts by individuals, manufacturers, and retailers to purchase, sell, raffle, gift, transfer, or trade certain goods and services on our platform. So even if there's an attempt at sales, your whole post might be deleted because of one comment on it. Not even the post itself, the comments can get it deleted. So also for like non-medical drugs, because that can kind of tie in or whatever, that could be like a precursor for, activity like that. So like it sort of like leads from one thing to another. And I think honestly, to me, like if you're going to go really, really heavy into the science on it and talk about like reclassifications of mushrooms or, that kind of stuff, maybe posting a link to something else is like a better idea so that they can read it off-site rather than doing it like the full Monty on social media.
Excellent. Thank you. And Kathy, did you have something that you were going to say?
No, just sort of the same thing, that it's still federally illegal and we're not selling things on our Facebook page, even though we're encouraging people to become members and learn things. We're not selling a product, and we're for sure not selling a product that's still federally illegal.
Right.
Excellent.
The problem is where you get all of the people that if psilocybin comes up as a keyword, right, you get all the people that try to sell it in the comments.
Right.
And it's a very difficult battle fighting all of the people that are trying to sell, and I have to add new keywords for blocking all of the time because they're using new platforms like Blue Sky and Telegram and all these messaging programs. Like I can't let anyone say anything about any of those. It's not allowed.
It would become a full-time job just to delete
Yeah.
comments from your
Right.
site.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. There are some good comments in the chat about this subject. So if people are interested in this, make sure you scroll through the comments and people are making some good suggestions there. Okay, so what is the number one recommendation for improving a club's social media presence? What's your best trick you have up your sleeve?
Just do it. I think
Mhm.
that's my number one. I mean, many of us, like even me, I mean, I'm not managing our club's social media. We could do more. I mean, I'm just speaking to Facebook where we do a really good job on our outreach, but there's so much more that we could do. So I think just pick up one of the tips. You've heard a lot of tips today. Just pick one of them and try it. And then, iterate from there. I think the simply the act of putting content up that's aligned with your goals, reasonable quality. As Adam said, he first did his first one, he realized what he didn't know. You're going to learn something from that.
I
Excellent.
would completely agree. The Minnesota Club is so very new to really sharing stuff. And this kind of ties into some of the conversations about, getting people to volunteer and engage and stuff. And it can be daunting. And, one of the people in our club said, "Hey, I'd be happy to post something on occasion." And I don't want that person to feel like it's their full-time job and they have to do it all the time. But what they've done is post pictures after an event or something leading up to an event. And I've found that other people who are in the club and the other committees have said, "Hey, I have something," and would share it and post. And it was easier to get other people involved just by having that one person say, "Hey, I'm gonna dabble in this and I'm gonna try." And again, we did talk about our zero tolerance, and you know what I mean? We set some rules and didn't try to put too much pressure on the person that you have to post at the right time and the right day, and it has to be 1 week out and then 2 days out. And it's like, just like Bravo when he got something posted, and we're dabbling.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Kathy, because the rules are different for like clubs that are just starting this versus people that really have like a team in place for this. And if you want to get the most bang for your buck when you have a pretty small presence, to me, like what Adam was talking about with the takeovers and what I was talking about with sharing into groups is like the best way that you can kind of really easily increase your viewership without having to work like extremely hard in order to do that. So I think like increasing your viewership is probably like one of the hardest things, and you can kind of hack it a little bit with that. Um, but there's also, when people, it's so annoying, but when people are like, comment, share, it's like that actually does work though to get your stuff boosted in the algorithm. So if you can get people to understand that like or that comment or that share is valuable to your organization, and start conversations on posts and stuff so it bumps it like as soon as it comes out, that's helpful. And if you can even, get a team of people that are like following you, that like if you notice someone on social media a lot that's commenting on your club's post a lot, reach out to that person and say like, "Hey, will you kind of help be like a social media warrior for me and just like put a comment on like a post if you see it." And that'll just help our club get more visibility, in social media. So those little things that you can do just to try to like boost yourself a little bit more, that actually really matters. And then you'll find that you have like more engagement on things as people start to comment it and people see stuff or whatever. And it kind of like is like this like tidal wave that like takes everything with it. Like it gains its own momentum.
I would say, obviously we have such a huge, with name, it's such a huge area, but really, no matter how small your club's geographic footprint is to bring your community in as much as possible, and go to the the chefs and who in your community is a mycologist, and who's doing cool art out there that has some mushrooms in it, and platform those people. And because I things that I might be interested in, maybe 30,000 followers aren't as interested in. And by spreading around, maybe you get some from everybody. And that picture of the lion's mane, your first lion's mane, that's epic shot. You want to share that. And those pictures are great, but there's just such a rich and deep world in all of our communities. It takes work, and it takes planning and begging. But when you find someone who's talented, and you help them get their content to your group, it's a good day.
I have a question for the people who are better at this than I am, but so is it true that so if you have a Facebook page, your page can follow a group, but your group can't follow another group or be a part of another group? Or is right? So if your
Page
club
rep-
has
Yeah, that's right. I
if
think
your club has
Rose
a
had
right, so if your club has a page, your club's page could be a part of the NAMA group, and then that becomes a built-in place to share your stuff. Besides just sharing it with the people who are liking your page, join the NAMA group and use that as a place of people who like mushrooms, and share your stuff out.
Okay, so Rose says groups can't post on pages, but pages can post on groups.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. All right. So it's 9:15 now. We do have a few questions. If there are any other questions, now would be a good time to get them into the Q&A. You just type them in. I will start reading from the top here. So Sundari asked, do you have any thoughts on how to avoid bans in general? We put C link in bio for promotion to sign up to volunteer, and we got banned. No drug-related things at all. We don't put link in bio anymore because of the ban once we got our account back. But now we have no easy way to push people to our website, and it has had an impact. So the initial question, do you have any thoughts on how to avoid bans in general? It sounds kind of like part of the question here too, is like, how do you push people to a website without getting yourself in trouble?
I mean, I think the point is you need to read and be aware of the community engagement policies. Like there are policies. I think this one, I don't know what's going on here, but generally there are policies around sort of link farming. The spammers use these techniques like put link in bio. So you think on events, there's a call to action button that won't get, could get people to do an action, and you won't get any problems with that. Or you could literally just put the link there and not put it in the bio, just put it right there in the post. But I don't have any expertise. I can look into this one for you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any opinions on club post? Wait, I'm sorry, let me start that over again. What's the opinion on club posting health benefits of functional mushrooms? No opinions on that?
I think you might have policies. I think it just you've got to be aware of your club's policy on promotion or endorsement. And so just deciding if it's just a topic that you have as a talk or some kind of educational content that comes from a third party, that would, if that was something your club was interested in. But I think that a lot of these things that they end up being promotions for a particular cause, and that's where, you probably have a policy for your page about how you handle that to make sure there's no bias or advantage given to certain parties over others.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next question. Would someone else posting with flaggable content and doing a collab post with the club page flag the club page? Would that be a safe way to post?
Can you say that again?
Repeat that.
Yes. Would someone else posting with flaggable content and doing a collab post with the club page flag the club page? Would that be a safe way to post?
If it's flaggable content and it's on your page, you can get flagged for it. It doesn't matter who's putting it up there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. So leading into that or tying into that, how does someone safely share account passwords for the takeovers?
I mean, I think we're doing them all through direct message to a personal account, right, Adam?
There is technology out there to allow access to your site. We have pretty old school way of doing it, but it's worked for us. We always have a pin to make sure no one locks us out of the account. But this always goes back to who you are entrusting with this page. And, if someone has 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 followers, and they have thousands of posts, and this is a big part of their life, you probably are going to be pretty good. But there are safeguards that Instagram provides to make sure that nobody goes and then alters the password from there.
Well, so Adam, I mean, if you could just clarify that the Instagram page is a shared club page. It's not an individual account with just one role on the page. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so another question that we have written down here, given the state of the world, social media these days, are there platforms that we're seeing becoming irrelevant or not worth the time and energy now? Or I guess we could say conversely too, are there rising platforms to watch? Somebody asked about Blue Sky earlier, I know, and I know there's some others that were mentioned.
Yeah. So Blue Sky definitely is a rising platform. And there are other platforms that I think that, yeah, we should watch. It's called Red Note, but it's also called like Zhaohongshu or something in China. And Vero, obviously TikTok has, come and made its own space in the world. But the thing is that I mean, I hate to say this, but like when you have a limited team of marketers, you kind of have to pick a lane and sort of stick with it, because if you divert your attention away from your page for a long period of time, then all of a sudden your viewership can kind of fall and people lose interest in you and that kind of thing. And it also takes more time to do, obviously, posts in both places. If you're going to try to post on 8 platforms, you can try to use a tool like Sprinkler in order to get it out to everything all at the same time if you want to try to do that. And you'd have like essentially the same message going to multiple places. But to me, that would be like maybe the only way that I would do it is if I had like a tool that can push to everything at once. To save time, because again, time is a resource, and if we have volunteers, we have to respect that. It takes a lot of time.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I did see, Melissa, that you made a note in there about you had a comment about safely sharing account passwords for takeovers. Is that correct?
I'm not sure that was me.
It just came out.
Oh, I actually, well, okay. I think that I don't know if Kathy mentioned this or not. I'm sorry if you did already, Kathy, but like Nama, we just talked not long ago about the fact that Nama had for a while the same username and password or whatever. And then you know, we were like, so what happens if someone like decides to like try to change everything about the account when they have it? They could like essentially steal the account. And then we discussed maybe we should change this more often, and we're doing that now to keep it more secure. So that's the only thing. If you give someone your username and password for an account, like it's a possible liability for you. So you probably want to think about changing the username and password fairly frequently.
Okay, thank you. We're getting more requests for a list of your blocked words, Melissa. That was very popular.
Anyone who wants to email me, my email address is Perry, that's PERRYMR01 @gmail.com. And I promise you, I will send that list to you if you email me. Again, Perry Mr. 01 @gmail.com. I'll send it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just want to flag about this roles thing. I think if you make your, and check me on this because I haven't looked at this recently, but I believe that if you make your Instagram and your Facebook page business accounts, you get multiple roles. So you would never give another person permission to do anything like that because they would just be, you know, they could be a creator and just post, but they wouldn't have admin permissions. So the business role, if you're starting from scratch, you can start as a business account and then it has those roles for different people and your secure passwords.
Okay. Do we have any other questions we would like to pose? All right, well, at this point, I would very much like to thank all of our panelists for coming out tonight. It was really a wonderful, wonderful message I heard, and different ideas, and I really appreciate all of your time, and thank you to everybody that came. This was recorded after, give us a couple days to get it edited, and it will go up on the NAMA website, so you can find this recording and most of our past recordings, webinars there. So thank you again, and I hope everybody has a great night.
Thank you.